Morning. It's Wednesday morning. It's my Tuesday tip, sometimes Wednesdays, stealing a line from Jenna Marbles. We had a horrible storm here last night, so I got out of here and headed home. So I'm here Wednesday morning to do my Tuesday tip. So first of all, to start out with, we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago about tort reform, about medical malpractice, and I waited a while before I actually did that particular video because it was a little bit controversial and I wasn't sure how it would go, and it actually resulted in a bit of a conversation. There was some comments. I responded to the comments and tried to have an actual conversation where we exchange information, something that used to be done back in the day in this country and isn't done as much anymore, and I think that we should do a lot more of it. I'm standing right now about 50 yards from the location of the Lincoln-Douglas debate, which resulted in the Freeport Doctrine, which was a huge turning point in the history of this country, because the Freeport Doctrine really resulted in Abraham Lincoln winning the presidency. He lost that election against Douglas where that debate occurred, but then down the road, because of the comments Douglas made in Freeport, Illinois, the Freeport Doctrine happened and Lincoln was elected. The Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil War, and eventually there was a dedication done here in Freeport to that particular debate and to that doctrine. And Teddy Roosevelt, who was sitting president at the time, actually came to Freeport. He rode on the train, got off onto his horse as he would always do, and came to the dedication. And back then, when they had all of these different debates, the newspaper would print every debate that had happened up till then, and the people that would come and attend the debates would look at and watch and read all of the prior debates and actually sit there and mark as to whether or not the candidates were consistent with what they had said in the past. Amazing that we had that level of interaction at that time with presidential candidates. So one of the things I want to do today is whatever questions you may have regarding anything, please post those. Please, write a post. You can do it on my page. You can do it as a response to this video, however you want to do it. But post your questions, and I'm happy to answer them. I'll take them in order. If there's nothing that I won't talk about, as long as it's within the realm of reason. And I think it would be a good idea if we had more of a conversation as a result of these, if anybody wants to have one regarding some of these topics. It's good to have a discourse where we actually talk about, I hate to use this word because it's thrown around terribly all the time now, facts. We actually talk about facts. Here's the law, here's the facts, here's how this works. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is I'm doing a great deal of advertising now, and as a result, I've been in touch with a lot more people. And I mean, when I talk to somebody regarding a new case, sometimes it's in my office, but many times it's not. Many times it's at their home, or it's at a hospital. The person's in ICU. A lot of times I'm not talking to the actual person who was injured. I'm talking to a family member because many times they're not here anymore. They've been killed as a result of the wreck, or they're in very, very bad shape. They're in ICU or there's something like that. So I get the opportunity to go to people's homes, to go to hospitals, and to talk to people in a setting outside of the setting of my office. And I've noticed recently that there's a percentage of people that I talk to that when I tell them kind of how the process works, they're startled. And this tends to be, I think, sometimes maybe people that are a little bit older. I don't know that that's always the case, but there is a group of people that look at me, and when I tell them that we're going to have to prove our case, we're going to have to do a whole bunch of things in order to get the insurance company to do what they're supposed to do, that they're surprised. I mean, they actually look at me and they kind of go, that doesn't make sense to me. The insurance company is hired to do X, Y, and Z, and they're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and how come they're not going to do X, Y, and Z? Well, the reality is in my job that occasionally insurance companies will do what they are supposed to do, but most of the time they don't do what they're supposed to do until there's a threat. And I wish it didn't operate that way, but what I indicate to my clients is they don't just give you the money, you have to go take it. And there's a reason that I have a job, and people are surprised that that's the situation. But I think most of those people are people that haven't dealt with these companies. And insurance companies are responsible to, they have a responsibility to those they insure, but they have a responsibility to the shareholder. They're a corporation, like all other corporations. And like all other corporations, they owe to the shareholder and to the stockholder, and we don't operate now long term. GE used to be a company that used to look out 10 years, but nobody does that anymore. Everybody operates in 90-day increments. They all operate in quarters. And so that's how they look at things. They look at, what do we have to do to get through the next 90 days? And they make very, depending upon the insurance company, they can make very brash judgments. I mean, if they've got a case that's really bad and the person's really injured and they're not doing very well, many insurance companies will delay that case on purpose, hoping that that person dies, because if they die, the case is worth a lot less. They'll in particular do that with somebody that's older. You'll hear insurance companies sometimes talk about large verdicts. And by the way, large verdicts don't happen without bad acts. They just don't. If you hear of a large verdict, that didn't happen without somebody doing something wrong. And when I say something wrong, I mean more than just they caused the injury to the other person. Then they tried to intentionally do something to cover it up or to not pay. That's how juries get upset and how big verdicts happen. It's because of bad acts. But what insurance companies won't talk to you about is the cases where they don't pay and they're proud of it. Us plaintiff lawyers, we have seminars where we come in and we share war stories. We share stories about successes. We share stories about where we overcame obstacles. We share stories about here's what worked in our particular case. And if you talk to defense attorneys, and I have, and if you talk to adjusters, and I have, they'll go to their seminars, and insurance adjusters will get up and they will tell stories about cases where they should have paid $6 million and got out for $100,000, and they'll cheer about that. They'll say, "Hey, look what we did. We saved our company so much money because we didn't have to pay in this case." And they'll talk about, wow, if they would have hired a lawyer who knew what they were doing, we would have had to pay X, Y, and Z, but they didn't. They hired somebody that doesn't handle these type of cases and didn't know what they were doing, and we only had to pay X. I get referred cases from an attorney, and all of the cases that he has coming in, he refers to me, and he used to do the cases that I do, and he started referring cases to me because he evaluated a case and he sent what we call a demand letter. He sent a letter from the insurance company saying, we want this amount of money to settle, and the insurance company didn't even reply with we agree to that amount. They replied with a check. They said, here. And he called me up and he said, well, clearly I'm not where I'm supposed to be in terms of valuing these cases. If I sent them a demand thinking they would negotiate from there and they just paid me the check, then I missed something. And insurance companies, when you miss something, I'm sure there are occasions where they do the right thing, but they're going to make the money for their shareholder. Adjusters get paid based upon the difference between what they could have settled the case for and what they did settle the case for. That's generally how their system works. So the system is designed so that the insurance company has an advocate and you need an advocate. And the advocate that you need needs to be somebody who operates in that arena, as I've talked about. And that's the system, right? It's an adversarial system. That doesn't make it wrong. But you need to understand that just because the person hit you, just because it was clear that they did something wrong, that the insurance company is going to walk up and go, oh, we're going to do the right thing and take care of everything. That's not That's not how the system is set up, and that's not how the system generally works. So understand that that's the process. Understand that it's an adversarial system. Understand that the adjuster's job is not necessarily to take care of you. The adjuster's job is to resolve the case for an amount of money less than the amount of money that they could have resolved the case for. The insurance company has, if the insurance company isn't contracted with you, they don't owe you any real duty. They have legal obligations, but there's a wide range of what fulfilling those legal obligations means. And you need somebody that's in your corner. And the more severe the situation, the quicker you need somebody in your corner. And I was with, this past weekend, a client from some time ago. On these big cases, you become part of the family. And it's a client that it was a very significant case. And we were talking about how the day that my firm was hired on that matter, how she was able to just hand over all of these things and then just worry about taking care of her husband, and she didn't have to worry about all of this other stuff. If you see my commercial, at the end of the commercial, I say, let us take care of your case so that you can worry about getting better. And that's really what you need. That's how it's supposed to work, is you have an advocate in your corner that takes care of those things and answers all your questions so that you can focus on your significant other or your child, or you can focus on what you need to focus on and deal with the situation that you need to deal with. So the point of this particular conversation is just to say, understand that when you're involved in a situation with an insurance company, it's an adversarial relationship, and that's the way that it's set up. Even if it's your own insurance company, you have to understand that this is a negotiation. Even if it's just a small wreck with your car, if you have a fire in your house, if you have a flood, we had terrible rains last night. If you have a flood and you have flood damage, your insurance company owes you certain obligations, but it's a negotiation from the beginning. You need to make sure that you've got your side taken care of. And if it's something severe, that means that you need to have an attorney in your corner that's looking out for your interests. Please post your questions regarding anything. I'd like to hear what you want to talk about. I'm happy to talk about anything that you want to talk about. I really enjoy getting this opportunity to meet everybody and talk to you. Have a great Wednesday, and I hope the rain stops.